Hello everyone and welcome to this new webinar. This webinar is the third of our Sustainable Data Management series. In this series, we interview our partners, data providers, on the in-depth analysis on a specific indicator, a methodology, and how financial institutions integrate it into their investment strategies. These webinars are here to help you better understand the data you use and to provide a clear vision of what different data providers offer in the market. It's an essential element for making informed choices in your investment strategy. We have already had the pleasure of welcoming Sesam for a webinar on controversies and Bloomberg on SFDR and regulation. And today, we are pleased to welcome ISS to deep dive on ESG rating methodologies. ISS Sustainability Solutions is a leading provider on ESG data and other types of data, but in particular, it distributes high-quality ESG ratings, assessing companies' sustainability performance across their entire value chain. So we are very happy to deep dive on that, and Reza will help us to do that deep dive. So today, we'll cover several angles that can impact ESG ratings. First, the recent regulation on ESG that have a huge impact on how providers are assessing and the governance behind. The balance in between quantitative and qualitative data, that is always a debate. And then we'll touch base on the international frameworks, how they impact your processes, and on the specific topic of nature and biodiversity. So very exciting agenda today. As usual, no theory disconnected from reality. It's just a frank conversation about the concrete challenge we face and the solutions that emerge from the field. And as always, please feel free to ask any questions you might have in the chat, and the team will be very happy to answer them live. For those who don't know me, I'm Grégoire Hug. I'm CEO and founder of Wefin. Wefin is a SaaS platform dedicated to financial institutions, and our mission is to raise the standard of sustainability. To do that, we enjoy debating, exchanging ideas, but also sharing our expertise. The mission of the platform is to integrate, analyze, and verify the quality of more than 50 different sustainability data sources. So, of course, to do that, we have partners, and these partners are of a great value when it comes to realize our mission. So today, I'm very happy to launch this discussion with Reza and to introduce today's topic. So you're one of the ISS experts, Reza Marvasti, an Associate Vice President on Sustainability Product Managers at ISS Sustainability Solutions. So welcome, first.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Reza, can I let you maybe present your role and what you do at ISS?
As you mentioned, I am currently working in our product team at ISS Sustainability Solution, mainly responsible for our nature, biodiversity, and physical risk solutions.
All right. Well, no large transition. Let's start on the impact of regulation on ESG rating providers and their methodologies. So for you and ISS activities, do you have a plan to make any change on the information that you are disclosing? I know that there's a question of separating the E, the S, the G, the new methodology documents that you need to provide to align the new regulation.
Yes.
What's your plan?
So as you mentioned, the new regulation that was passed late last year as part of the EU's ESG rating regulation directly impacts our rating activities. The main goal behind this regulation was essentially to enhance the integrity, reliability, and transparency of ESG data across European Union. And the regulation does this by focusing on governance, conflict of interest management, and transparency. At ISS Sustainability Solution, we are preparing to provide all the required documentations to ESMA within the coming year. Within the prescribed time frame, which we have, again, this is happening next year. In terms of separation between environmental, social, and governance score, which is part of this regulation, the way our scoring model is built is that we take into account a segmented dimension. So we already have separate environmental, social governance score. We continue to have those. And obviously on top, you have access to the aggregated score, which is provided as part of our full data set. We will continue to monitor these developments that are taking place at the European level and enhance our methodology documents moving forward, taking into account, again, the regulations and also the feedback that we get from our clients and stakeholders as such.
You talked about the governance and the interaction that you can have probably with your full value chain. In terms of the development of your rating, is there an engagement process? How are you proceeding?
Yes, we do have an engagement dialogue process in place when we are doing the rating. So the way it works is that initially when we start doing the rating, you look into all the publicly available documentations that are available. It could be companies' public financial reports, sustainability report as an example. And then if a company is being rated for the first time, we contact them. There's a dialogue stage where they're able to provide us with additional information. And then every 2 or 3 years, we have this review process in place where they get to review the rating and provide an input if and when required. So that is already built in within our methodology.
So the model is a mix in between issuer paid and user paid, or
no. It's important to say that our model is strictly user paid. So the investors, pension banks, and all of those will be the ones that are paying for our services. And when we have these dialogues with companies that we review or rate, obviously those are all free of charge. Yes.
I've read that 75% of the indicators you're using are qualitative and only 25% are quantitative. So it seems that you prefer the qualitative indicators to assess companies. So why do you do that?
So for us, this has been a deliberate choice. We wanted to make sure that we have a kind of a holistic assessment in place when we're doing these ratings. There's obviously a use case for quantitative data. So you look at, for instance, carbon emission intensity. This gives you some ideas about the historical performance of a company. But in order to look into forward-looking metrics, what is it that company is doing in the future, how they are preparing, what level of resilience they have in place for future ESG risks, we need to consider also qualitative metrics on top. So it's not that we're setting aside, we're considering qualitative and quantitative in order to be able to tell a story about what are the actions that a company is taking and how are they able to deal with those risks and opportunities in the future.
All right. And it means that if you have like a quantitative data point that tells something about the futures, you always complete with the qualitative assessment about the management, about how they will.
Yes, if and when possible, yes, those are things that we definitely take into account, yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention here just quickly, it also allows us to consider industry-specific nuances. So for a particular industry, maybe looking at biodiversity management plan is something of an importance, and then we can consider that as part of our rating process.
Does it mean that a part of your data is going to be public information and the others is going to be private, and the engagement and dialogues that you do with the companies will give you an additional set of data, or is like 100% public? So
majority of our information comes from publicly available data. This could be, again, financial reports, sustainability report, data that we gather from publicly available NGOs, CDP as an example. And then we also have this process where companies are able to provide us with additional non-public information. There's a whole framework for it, and those are also considered as part of the assessment, but they account for a relatively small percentage of the final output.
All right. And how frequently are your ESG scores updated? Because it's a very complex process, so I mean, it's hard to refresh that very frequently. What's your promise when you are looking?
We are updating our ratings on an annual basis. We also, on top of that, have what we call event-driven updates. So it could be things like controversies, major oil spill, or let's say companies involved in mergers and acquisitions. Those are all event-driven updates that are considered on an ad hoc basis. But generally speaking, every year we do an annual update of the issuers within our universe.
When we speak about ESG ratings, there's not one standard, but many frameworks that you need to consider. ISSB, ESRS, and like other acronyms like that, or TNFD if we want to talk about nature. How does ISS adapt to these changes in these standards? For example, the revision of the ESRS and or the new GRI standards?
So you're right in that it is quite a complex area to work in the ESG rating at the moment because of the changes in the regulations, some of the voluntary one disclosures or the mandatory one. We have internally at ISS a methodology review board team. We're responsible for monitoring these developments, and as such, we will update our methodology with these changes on an ongoing basis. But one thing to keep in mind is that, yes, we do have a lot of different disclosure frameworks in place, but what we see is that with each passing year, they seem to be getting more and more aligned in terms of the reporting requirements. So that makes also our lives a bit easier.
Talking about frameworks, one of the frameworks that was supposed to help in the future is CSRD and the publication of more information, in particular for small companies or smaller companies. So there's probably going to be some limit on that in the future. How are you adapting to that? I understand that you will have to do more proxies. So how are you running these proxies with what kind of methodology?
Yes, you're correct in that the expected changes to the CSRD, I mean, yet to be finalized, obviously, will have an impact in our data collection process. Potentially, we could see up to 80% reduction of small SMEs who are reporting based on CSRD, who were eligible to report previously. So what is going to probably happen is that we'll have kind of a two-tier system for companies that fall within the CSRD regulations and have to report on it. We'll have detailed data available. For the rest, it will be a mix and match of what they report on and potentially using estimates. Obviously, those are things that we still need to figure out depending on the state of the regulations that will be decided hopefully end of this year, early next year.
Yeah, the uncertainty is as well another issue.
Nature of the job, yeah.
Well, the last topic we wanted to discuss is the issue of the biodiversity. It's becoming more and more important for financial players, and I think they are still struggling to integrate that into their whole investment processes. In an ESG score, well, you are now forced to consider more the topic, and it's a good point. So there's new metrics, new methodology, new reporting frameworks in the market again. So how does your ESG score incorporate that thematic in particular?
So essentially what we have seen is that the topic of nature and biodiversity has become increasingly more and more material. We try to integrate nature and biodiversity into our rating process. Again, for some sectors, let's say maybe looking into soil and biodiversity might be of importance, beverage as an example. So on top of our existing rating, where we consider nature and biodiversity, we have also launched a biodiversity impact assessment tool about 2 years ago. This basically provides a kind of a high-level holistic assessment of a company's impact when it comes to nature and biodiversity, using two very well-known metrics of PDF, potentially disappeared fraction of a species, and MSA, or mean species abundance. And a data set currently exists for about 18,000 issuers at the moment. And there are other areas, obviously, nature and biodiversity, where we are looking into potentially providing additional enhancements in the near future. But it's an exciting space for sure.
So it's pretty new. Are you weighting very differently from one sector to the other, the biodiversity thematic into your rating system?
We do have a sector-specific approach when it comes to biodiversity. As I mentioned, one example being beverages, for instance, soil and biodiversity might be of more importance than other sectors. We also apply different ratings. So those are all kind of different variations that exist within our assessment.
Are there still sectors that are not yet covered because it's not a material issue, or because, well, we don't have yet the right methodology to run biodiversity analysis?
There could be a mix of reasons. But again, I think a lot of these issues will be resolved in the coming years as soon as we have more additional data available as part of the TNFD reporting. You know, as you know, they have sector-specific reporting, and potentially down the line with the ESRS, CSRD, specifically E4 portion that deals with nature and biodiversity. So once we have those factors and disclosures in place, obviously we'll be able to do a more meaningful assessment of a state of nature and biodiversity.
So you're part of the optimistic, you think that you will have more data in the 3 to 5 years and thanks to TNFD and other framework?
Yes, no, definitely. Within the next 3 to 5 years, I expect to see more companies reporting aligned with TNFD. Based on the latest report, I think it was published September, something around 650 organizations are planning to report based on TNFD. That's somewhere around $20 trillion asset under management. So that's massive. The other area is that obviously we'll have more reporting from CSRD, ESRS, more disclosure, more data available, and then all of these could be integrated within our existing models to be able to run a more meaningful assessment when it comes to the state of nature and biodiversity in the near future. And on top of that, you have a lot of these new technological advancements. So asset level assessment, something that we're actively looking into, potentially eDNA analysis, all of those could fit in within the biodiversity and nature assessment in the future.
So Reza, maybe last question. We've talked about nature, biodiversity, ESG ratings, but in general, what is the main differentiator of ISS?
I think for us, our main differentiator is that we have been in this business for a very long time. We have a big team of analysts who are working, especially in our corporate rating assessment. So as you mentioned earlier, not looking only into quantitative data, but also qualitative. That gives a good overall holistic view of a company's impact when it comes to those ES and G outputs. In addition, innovation. So we have a lot of new things that are currently in place, and we're looking forward to be able to present them to our clients in the coming year.
Thank you, Reza. That seems very exciting. Thank you for sharing your insights and for the enriching discussion. I'm confident that this will be valuable for you who are listening to this webinar. Thank you for watching. This was our third webinar in our series dedicated to ESG data management. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach to our team. We'll be very happy to answer them. And the next edition is going to be about temperature, so hopefully, again, enriching discussions. Thanks.